My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Night at One's podcast, episode number 37. I hope that song, that audio track that goes with that video gets you as hyped as it gets me. We are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion who's not here this week, a former UCF basketball player who's also not here this week, a former UCF radio host who decided to show up, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper who did show up, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. So we won't have Nobra doing the production. He's also out this week. I think everybody decided it was summer vacation time early and decided to take off. So you're stuck with Josh Lazar and I. But we've got a fun-filled and packed schedule for you this week. We're going to talk about the transfer portal. One of the things we were talking about last week was the transfer portal, but we had a huge boom of 4 incoming transfers this week. So we'll talk a little bit about them. UCF football had some scheduling updates. UCF basketball, some big news that just dropped with someone named JJ Taylor. UCF baseball, and then, of course, the other UCF sports that Alan doesn't care about. So since our good friend Nobra isn't here this week, I'll do this for him. Hey now. I don't have quite the hair for the hair flip, but I'll try it anyway. And without further ado, let me welcome in, last but not least, but definitely last this week, Josh Lazar.
My diss track just went viral. Right stroke put the baby in the spiral. Soprano C, we like to keep it on the high note. It's levels to it, you and I know. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. And you know what? I'm going to get no reaction to that.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know that song, Roger.
Well, it's not even that. There's nobody here, so it's kind of like it's like playing an empty arena. I mean, I don't know. It's just so hyped up from that song, from the video that it just I just couldn't get there. I'm sorry, John.
Listen, it's all your fault. No.
It is all my
fault. Actually, you and I are here.
That's true. It is everybody else's fault. That being said, you actually decided to watch a game, and we ended up winning. So that was big news. So Josh wasn't at the game, but he was watching it. And as soon as he tuned in, baseball was playing, and Houston hit a grand slam to tie it up. And we told Josh, hang up your headphones, put down the remote, walk away from the TV, and we won the game anyway. So
that's not exactly how it went, and I have a text talk for it. So if you want to start with that, I can give you some.
Well,
I can give you the play-by-play if you really want.
Well, we can do the text talk just as long as it's brief, because we tend to get lengthy. So let's start with text talk. I don't know. I'm producing this week, and Nobra has gotten rid of my text talk banner. Oh my goodness.
Text talk.
All right.
Here, let me tell the audience kind of how that worked out while you're figuring out how to produce. Thanks, Nobra. So Ben was watching baseball, right? Goes with his kid, really, really into it, and about a little later on Saturday said, if you're able to turn on the UCF baseball game right now, something special is going on through 5. And that was true. So about 30 minutes later, I'm like, checking it out now, listening to Kendrick's third diss track in 24 hours released like 90 minutes ago, Not Like Us, not understanding how much it was going to blow up. So I'm looking at it. It was 4-0. I turn on my ESPN.
Well, hold on. There was a no-no going on through 5. There was a no-no going on. So it's not just the grand slam, but a no-no.
Yeah, and by the time I got in and watched it, it was bases loaded. And then I looked down, and honestly, the stat updated to 4-4 before I saw the video, and I'm like, nah, I'm shutting it off. And you were like, there's the Josh Jinx. And then I said back to Kendrick. But I actually did, after that, I was popping back in. I was working and doing a multitude of things. And then I popped back in before we got up 6-4. So it's not the Josh Jinx. Come on, can't just be me. But how is it that the moment I turn on ESPN Plus, the moment after Ben, 30 minutes of Ben sending something out, they hit a grand slam within a minute. It's just, come on, man.
It's the Josh Jinx. So we're hoping next athletic season, hopefully it's just the first season in the Big 12 that happens. So, but let's go ahead and talk a little UCF football. I did find the text. Well, I didn't find it. I made it. But let's go ahead and go with a little bit of UCF football and talk about some positive news. Now, we were down to the wire on a couple of really, really big names that didn't end up coming here. But it was we were truly in it. One of them, rumor is the Gators overpaid double what we were paying in the NIL so that they didn't get embarrassed to have someone, get beat out, a big name, get beat out by UCF. Now, here's the exciting thing about that. He'll probably go there, get his bag, and next year we'll see him on our roster. So, when G5 Billy Napier decides to head back to Louisiana. So, however, we did land 4 incoming transfers since the last pod that we had. We now have 23 transfers, which is nuts. 8 in the spring window alone. So, we've had a lot of roster turnover, but as we talked about last year, we got better. And headlining that group is a former 4-star running back, Penny Boone. Now, here's the thing about Penny Boone. He ran for 1,400 yards and 15 TDs last season. So we have multiple 1,000-yard rushers on this squad. Not to mention Miles Montgomery, which I think a lot of people, I watched that Cincinnati game last year, and I think people are undervaluing what Miles Montgomery can and will do for us. Penny was from Detroit, played his first 2 years at Maryland, so P5 player, transferred to Toledo where he became a star, ran for 1,400 yards and 15 TDs last season. And the best thing about it is he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. So remember, RJ Harvey will be moving on next year just because he's out of eligibility. We didn't know if he was going to have it for this year, but he did. There was talk about him going to the NFL, but he decided to stick around. So we have a good 1-2 punch that'll also give RJ a little bit of help as the season progresses against, folks that are getting banged up or, you just get worn out. The word on the street is RJ was on fumes at the end of last year. So that's a big plus. Plus, you've got Miles Montgomery, and then we have the depth, the freshman depth that we brought in. That's really, really solid as well. So from a running back room perspective, 1, this was a huge ad. 2, it's great for depth. And 3, it gives us an extra year for him to get involved with the program, understand the offense, and he's got really, really, really good size, which will help us, for longevity, et cetera. So, Josh, any comments on Penny Boone?
He might be the Bowser third down back type of deal at times if he's in that type of rotation. I think that was the feel that Gus probably wanted with him. But to your point, I love RJ. I think he's going to do amazing things this year, and I really hope he makes it to Sundays, and he might have a darn good shot at it. But we had such a deep running back room, and then poof, right? MAR gone. Marcus Bowman gone, right? We get, and this is just how life is going to be. So for Penny, I'm excited that he has a couple of years left. We have a bigger type of back as we have a couple, but we have a bigger type of back there. The freshman might get some cleanup time, maybe not, but we don't have to rely on what we have behind us, or even Miles if something happens to RJ, or we need to help hold them out for some reason. So I'm excited about it. it's nice to have depth at running back. It feels like old George O'Leary times where we kept having people, was it Latavius was like behind, I can't pull that out of my head off the top of my head. Latavius was like second in command and then started to slowly get up. And he's kind of doing good in the NFL now. So
still,
I'm excited about this.
I think, what is this, like his 8th year or 9th year in the NFL, something like that? The Tate train is still chugging along very strong.
Oh yeah, and he's getting he's getting good yardage. He's for what is now older, like an older running back in the NFL is 28, 29 at this point. It's really
here's the thing about Latavius, right? So Latavius has been in backup roles, right? Yeah. And so he hasn't been the star running back. Now, he did have a starting role for a little bit on a few teams, but he really doesn't have a whole lot of carries on him. So he's a young 28, 29 years old. I think he might even be 30 at this point. We'll have to look that up.
He's 34.
Yeah, so 34.
January 90.
Yeah, he's a young 34 when it comes to running backs in the NFL. So he was averaging something like 6 or 7 yards per carry. And he's bounced around to a lot of different teams. And, that's the best place to be. If you're the backup running back, you get to save your legs. You're making good money. He's not making the veteran minimum. He's making more than that. And he's getting touches. So, he's able to extend his career and make the most out of his money without having to get hurt. And, if you're 34 years old and running back in the NFL, that says a lot about how you've held up and how you've, done as a running back. So next on the list, we kind of pivot to, there it is. I was waiting on it. That's what you call a pregnant pause, folks. And it was very pregnant. I'd say about 9 months. All right. Wide receiver, Jacoby Jones. So we're going to go. Yeah, thanks. Hey, listen, I get a certain amount of dad jokes in there.
It's all right.
But wide receiver, Jacoby Jones, actually, he's a JUCO transfer. So people kind of look at that and are like, okay, well, he's not a, P5 transfer or whatever. But he was highly recruited coming out of high school. He gives us some size when it comes to the wide receiver room. And really, he was a replacement for Goldie Lawrence. As you remember, Goldie Lawrence, we were excited about him. He went to FSU. Then he came to UCF. There were allegedly challenges with him as far as making sure he's highly talented receiver, number one, 4-star receiver, athletically gifted, but does not have the skill sets necessary to, how should I say this, be consistent at this level. He was constantly late in practice. Supposedly he was late for the spring game, and that's why he sat out. And after that was it. That was all she wrote for him, and he transferred. So Jacoby Jones, who's a native of Mississippi, played 2 years in JUCO before Ohio. I didn't say that right. Had 45 catches for 777 yards last season and 6 TDs. He did have some injuries and leg injuries, so he would have had even more yards had that not happened. Word is that we really put him through his paces as far as his injuries to make sure he was good to go. He's the first. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining, so this is a guy who's going to be plug and play. He's going to be expected to play right away. And we've had pretty good luck with these types of receivers, and we needed it. We lost Baker to the NFL. We've still got Kobe Hudson. We've got Burdell Richardson that's coming into his own, and by all accounts, and you said this too, is going to be a star, but he's not there yet. So excited to get him on. And the thing is we're adding a lot of depth with a lot of experience, right? So these guys are not just guys who didn't make it or were freshmen and didn't get any playing time. We talked about that a little bit last week. These are guys that have snaps under their belt, so they should be able to slot in and produce right away. So I'm excited about that. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, you can't have enough wide receivers. You really can't, because look, we had 2 amazing wide receivers last year, and then on top of that, we had X kind of building up. We had oh God, I'm going blank because I'm going through my fun facts for later today. We had some tight ends that were grabbing some catches that weren't named Holler, which is great. But we didn't really have a solid third and fourth. And if Kobe or Javon went down, it might have been kind of tight. So the more the merrier, and trying to get these roster changes and working out when, the Goldies and the other people leave whenever they do is really good. It's not like Jacoby has like 5 catches, right? It's a solid JUCO career, solid Ohio career. And look, he might have a really great year this year. And I hope he does. So the more, to me, the more the merrier. I'm glad. It seems like we're building depth from both ways. We're getting the high school recruits and we're building them over time, or we're getting like John Walkers and like you're in, right?
Well,
we got some
here's the thing. Here's the thing. This guy's 6'3", 228.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to, what Javon Baker was good at was those contested catches, right?
Yes.
So at 6'3", 228, he's going to be a guy who's going to go up for those 50-50 catches. Hopefully not like drop them or doink them off with somebody into an interception like we had last year. I've never seen anything like that.
Put that juju on us.
Yeah.
Jeez,
but
that was insane.
Yeah. But at 6'3", 228, he's got great size. Yeah. But size alone, normally guys like this will get picked up as a 3-star or 4-star. With usually a 3-star if they need some help on skills. So I think this gives us some size on the outside. We need 2 receivers that will stretch the field. I think he's going to take the Javon Baker type of role that allows Jacoby to kind of roll into the middle of the field deep, right? If we need it. We've got X that's going to be, in the 10 to 20 yard range, and then we've got a tight end, as you mentioned, a pass catching tight end. Which we have not had for a long time. When was the last time we had a really good pass-catching tight end? Do you remember?
I'm thinking the gentleman who went to the New York Giants. And again, I'm just not pulling names out of my head today. I'm sorry, listeners, but we've had them. It's been a minute. And listen, Holler has done a really good job at that, but I feel like he's not a primary wide receiver that happens to block really good when you're tight on the O-line.
No. He's a blocking tight end, 100%.
Yeah. Well, he's pretty solid at catching. But he's not a wide receiving tight end. Like that was not his main role.
Yeah, Randy Pittman is who you're thinking of. And Randy, the thing about Randy was he was highly recruited coming out of high school, pass catching tight end. And we've got Kylan Fox, who's waiting in the wings, who is also highly recruited, who's also a pass catching tight end. So I think we've got some depth there. Randy's 6'2", 225, Kylan's 6'4", 217. But he will put some weight on because he's a true freshman. He'll put some weight on, and that'll be a good backup. So we've got 2 really, really good pass catching tight ends, which we haven't had for a while. So excited about that. Then we got some more DB help. Sheldon Arnold, again, transfer from East Tennessee State, 6'1", 190, originally from Loganville, Georgia. That should ring some bells for Trey Neal, who decided to go help the doctors tonight. Yeah. Was an FCS All-American last year, had 87 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, 4 picks, 2 defensive TDs, and he has 1 year of eligibility remaining. And what we're looking for, if you watch his tape, he's 6'1", 190. So for a DB, that's pretty good size, right? Safeties are typically a little bit taller, that 6'1", 6'2" range, and have a little bit of heft on them. But the big thing that we're looking for, and what you've heard the coaches talk about all offseason, was turnovers, right? So remember that UCF fierce defense where we were trying to get the ball back into the Frost offense's hands and that UCF fast offense. We've really got to focus on turnovers, and we kind of lost our way, last year with that. And 4 picks and 2 defensive TDs last year in 1 year. You can't coach ball hawk, right? You can help them, but some people just have the instinct, especially at the cornerback position. And Josh, I think you had a name for a tight end you wanted to float here.
Oh yeah, it was Jordan Akins. I mean, that's probably.
You mean Jalen Atkins?
Jalen Atkins, yeah. Well, I think that was one. I was thinking someone else too, but that's back in the day. I'll tell you about Sheldon. I think Ted Roof is trying to bring that level of attacking offense, and maybe it's just vanilla stuff you see in the spring before summer, the fun of summer with football, and then we get to actual fall practices. But I have a feeling that level of the Frost level of ball hawkishness, if you will, is going to come back. It really seemed like everyone was attacking the ball well in drills that I saw in the spring game where I was at. Like it seemed that way. Now it might be just defense, better than the offense. A lot of new pieces in the offense in spring, but I hope that Sheldon and others are going to get back to what we've seen and has worked well for us as a team.
Well, the big thing too is we should have, our defensive front 4 should be pretty solid, right? Defensive end, we were still trying to get some help with for depth, right? But the front 4 and the guys who are lining up in the middle of that defense are going to be a problem. And you've heard it all spring, and one of the things we talked about last year is how vanilla our defense was. Now, granted, we had a new coordinator, but we also didn't have an experienced coordinator. And what you're seeing a lot more of, and we're not seeing it all because they're pretty good about hiding defense, but from what the players have been saying and some of the people I've been talking to, and then also in the interviews, is they're disguising blitzes, which means you don't know where that safety is going to come from, which adds pressure to the quarterback, which again allows less time for him to get the ball out, less time for routes to develop, makes them throw out of sequence, and all of those things contribute to someone or opportunities to get turnovers, right? And that's really what we're going to be looking for. So defensively, this fall, what I'm going to be looking for is, what does the complexity of the defense look like? I also believe that's why you're seeing a lot of transfers that are experienced, right? Because it's much harder for a freshman, true freshman, sophomore to get their heads wrapped around it so that they can get to a point, plug in, and act on instinct. You hear Trey talking about that all the time. Defensively, it's about getting to a point where you don't have to think as much and know your assignments and attack. And that's easier to do when you're not having to worry about what the wide receiver is doing, right? Because you're depending on if you're boundary or field corner, if you're boundary corner, you're going to be using the boundary to your advantage. You're going to be trying to isolate them, keep them tight against the sideline. That makes it easier to defend, right? And depending on what you're doing with your safety, are you bringing them down into a zone? What do you do? Again, we'll get into that in the fall once we see what we're actually doing and how we're going to do that. But again, bringing older talent, more experienced talent in, yes, it's not fun when it's only for 1 year, right? But I mean, let's be real about the portal. People are going in and out of all the time.
Yeah.
But we're upgrading size, we're upgrading snaps, and hopefully that complexity in the defense allows us to field a much better defense than what we had last year, because last year's defense was less about the power game, and it was more about, Gus talked about it. Everybody was expecting air raid style offenses. We played traditional SEC style football, to be honest with you, in the Big 12 last year. And to do that, you need bigger bodies. And I think that's what you're seeing this year. I think Gus learned his lesson, and we're going after those folks to do that.
And let's talk about just briefly the recruits we had coming in this year. Like, we have Marcus Downs, who's no slouch in height or weight as a DT. He's going to be I've heard good things about him just in the spring, so he'll be part of that future. You sandwich him as a freshman in with multiple people on the line coming in as backup or trying to fill in, or maybe you get a rotation of about 6 to 8-ish people like Hand likes to do on the offense. That might be something, but I didn't realize this because we're talking defense so much. How many defensive backs, and maybe there's some, maybe they swap around when they're actually here, but there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 defensive backs that we recruited this year. I'm sure they're going to go into, I want to say sure, they may be going to other positions too. But I mean, I've heard of Chasen Johnson already as being someone to think about and someone doing well. These are not people who are 4 or 5 years into their collegiate career or football career, maybe the same right now, and they're just coming in and getting their name known. So to me, I really love that we're trying to do this at both angles with the idea of win now as well.
Well, I mean, you've got Braden Marshall too, right? So he came in and he's been kicking butt the last two games. But again, just to clarify, right, when people say DB, defensive back, you're talking about multiple positions. You're talking about cornerback. You're talking about the 2 safety positions. Yeah. You're talking about a night type of defensive back, right? So that's still a nickel back.
There's a lot of back end that we tried to bring in, and we're recruiting more as well. So
that is a lot of back end that you're trying to bring in.
So it's five freshmen and Sheldon Arnold amongst others. So yeah, I feel very positive. I hope other UCF fans feel positive. And we didn't even get to Keegan Smith yet, who also and more that popped in this past week.
Yeah, and the big thing on defensive backs, let's just be frank. We had a lot of guys transfer out. That's right. Fair. And so, but I feel like a lot of that has to do with who was pressing for time, right?
Kai Martinez left, but it wasn't because he was going to be a starter or a solid starter.
It was because he was going to lose snaps, and more power to him. If he wasn't going to be a starter, then more power to him trying to find a better place for him. But I feel like there were a lot of hard conversations after the spring, right? Where they had those conversations and they were like, hey, look, this is kind of where I see you at right now, where we're at. We've got these folks coming in the fall. You got Fagans, you got all these guys that are coming in. We've just upgraded. Unfortunately for the players, we've just upgraded. So, you've got to, I don't know. Sometimes you got to add mushroom to the pizza. What can I say? You've got to upgrade it because, mushroom on pizzas is just a necessary thing. I don't care 100%. If you guys agree with me, but mushroom on pizza, that's a thing.
Every type. I'm with you. I'm completely with you.
All right. So, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about new offensive lineman Keegan Smith. So Keegan Smith is a transfer from Central Michigan. As you know, we've had a lot of turnover there. We did have a few folks that we were in play for that really were big names that we were hoping to grab. But again, I think you're going to see those names again a year from now after the bag.
That too.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm serious. Good on them. They're going to get the bag. We've already seen it. We already saw it this past year. I see that continuing to happen. Let them get their bag. Let Florida spend their money on NIL so they can't get it anywhere else. For us, it's serendipitous, right?
Well, absolutely.
yeah, we want them, but at the end of the day, I think that we're going to be surprised in a good way on how many of those guys come back. So Keegan Smith from Central Michigan, he made 15 starts over the last 3 seasons, originally from Michigan. He's 6'3", 295 pounds, so he's got some good size to him. Could put on a little bit of weight. I mean, but he does have 2 years of eligibility remaining. So not only is it a situation, where we're landing someone for the offensive line, but he's going to be here long enough that because it takes a minute with the offensive linemen to get them to understand the shifts, the calls, what their blocking assignments were, because we run a lot of zone blocking as well, which means there's a lot of movement along the line, right? And to try to overwhelm the defense one side or the other, whatever we're trying to achieve. So it's going to take him a minute. However, he's got enough experience that he should be able to plug in and over the summer, hopefully learn a lot of that. And he's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. So that's awesome news because we needed offensive lineman help. That's going to be, we talked last year about linebackers being the issue or potential issue. This year, it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes the offensive line to gel because we did have a few holdovers, but not many.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's one of the things where offensive line just be like it's so coveted in recruiting, right? It's where people are coming off after you get 6 QBs in the first 12 picks, right? Offensive linemen, defensive tackle lines matter, and when it comes to recruiting, lines matter, and
right.
Even when it comes when we get that in the NIL and transfer. Lines matter. This is why we have all of these things going on. That's why people are overpaying, if you will, for that. And I'm glad for anyone who wants to come down here and work with Herb Hand, because man, everything you've heard about him anecdotally is true. And even on the one time
did he cook you dinner?
One of these days. I might have to pony up the money to get into one of those dinners on some type of NIL like donation thing. I'd love to. He seems like good people, and on top of it, he's doing his best to carve these great men into really good offensive linemen. I haven't heard one person say a bad word on his name, and he's been in this game for a while. So. More people, come on down.
All right. So not only we've kind of talked about the transfers that came in last minute, but it was a big, busy day. We also got a commitment from 3-star linebacker Malachi Boone. He's from Bushnell, Florida. Played at South Sumter High School. So this is a freshman coming in. But here's the exciting thing: 6'2", 235 as a true freshman high school player, number 137 in the Sunshine State. And obviously linebackers are usually ranked. I mean, they're ranked highly, but they're ranked lower than a lot of the skill position players in Florida because we produce so many good ones of them. And, there's a bias for QBs and running backs and, everything else. He's 6'2", 235. Don't let the fact that he's a 3-star, put you off about him. He's a guy, from what we're told, that didn't go through a lot of the camps, and because he didn't go through a lot of the camps, he wasn't pushed to a 4-star. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like a situation where this is a guy that is under-recruited, has the size for a 4-star recruit at linebacker, and at the end of the day, he should plug in well and provide us some good size at that position.
Yeah, so the people who have been around UCF for a little while kind of starting to get some gray in their beard, right? They're not worried about a 3-star, right? We've been diamond mining since maybe Mike Kruzik.
But he's not even a diamond. Like he's still a number 137 player.
We're used to now 4-stars because we're in the P3-ish. I don't know. We'll see what happens with ACC. But we're fancy now. So 3-stars, like, what is this thing about? Listen,
the correct term is bougie, Josh, not fancy.
Bougie, yeah, pinkies up, baby, yeah. So I'm not too concerned with the rating system when it comes to, especially when it comes to someone who hasn't been to the camps and hasn't possibly done like that pay for play type of thing. It's like when you're a public speaker and you get to all these conferences, but not only do you have to pay your own way, you have to pay your way to be in front of people because you donated a sponsorship or something. That's not great public speaking. What you want is someone who's out there and grinding and doing their thing and shows up on tape. Public speaking or football actually works the same way. So if he's not playing those games, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, he got his way into a P4 school, and we're not a schlub of one. So, welcome to the team, Malachi.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited about him, and again, a position of need, right? So this is an area where we needed size, and we're beefing up the linebacker room like a beefy 5-layer burrito. It's just so good. You just like crunch into it. It's just so much. It's just so good. All right. Next, let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about the UCF football schedule. So we got some scheduling news, including some P5 additions to the schedule. And we announced a home-and-home series with Pitt. How do you feel about playing Pitt? Are you excited about Pitt? Are you not excited about Pitt? Like, I don't know how to feel. How do you feel about that?
I have some ESP about Pitt. Look, it's interesting. The Pitt, I got you on that. There's layers to it, you and I know. Okay, so I want to tell you a brief Pitt story, then I'll give you the answer. So I was actually in Chicago the last time we traveled to Pitt, and I was with my friends at this thing called Gobert's Farm. They have a pumpkin eating dinosaur. It's a thing. It's kind of cool. So of course we're doing pretty decently, and I'm like halfway hanging out with my family, halfway being the turd in the background looking at his phone, and we were on our way out. Done for the day. I was like, okay, it looked like we were doing good in the game. We got this. And as I'm walking out, I see the play. And oh my, like, come on. So I will say
special with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Look, anytime you go into someone's house and they make a shirt out of something that helped them win, there has to be something there. It's more than the baseline. Oh, it's just another team. So that was that, right? Not only that, the gray hair UCF fans remember being in the Citrus Bowl at the nighttime against Pitt. And I won't lie, I left at halftime. My wife and I were going down to Tampa, hanging out with.
I was there for that game.
Future in-laws. We were going to hang out with what was going to be my future in-laws. I left. I think it was 45-0 at halftime. Some ridiculous. It was bad. So you know what? Do I like playing Pitt? Yes. The answer is yes. I think when they end up coming into our conference after the ACC is decimated, you think West Virginia is going to be a rivalry, and they probably will be. I think we have a shot of trying to not that level of rivalry, but I think it might be a better rivalry than Cincinnati.
Isn't there? Are they the keg of nails, or which one is that they have? I can't remember if that.
I don't know, but I think it was something like a straight backyard hate or something. Like there was some they do not like each other, and that's why I was trying to get you on some ESP. But that's all right. It's right over your head. It's one-on-one here. But yeah, it's just not. I don't think we'll have that type of rivalry, but I like playing Pitt. And honestly, I want to go to Pittsburgh the next time we do it. And I'm definitely going to be at Northwestern the next time we go because I have some friends up in Evanston, and it's just like a hop, skip, and a jump away from hanging out with some great friends. So, and I might actually do it for Iowa State too.
Let's just put it this way: it's the backyard brawl.
Backyard brawl.
And they have been playing since 1895. So we talk about, and obviously that got broken up with West Virginia going to the Big 12. So my feeling on Pitt is this: like, one, I don't like their coach. I feel the same way about him as I do about Coach Prime. Right? They're blowhards, and they need to feel the bounce at the bounce house when they come here. But at the end of the day, like, I did enjoy the game, although it was sweltering. The lady, when they played at UCF the last time and we whooped them, the lady behind me was a Pitt fan, and she actually passed out. I felt bad for her while I was getting water for my daughter, with my daughter. We came back, and she was being carried out. But at the end of the day, like, Pitt doesn't really excite me anymore. It's like, I don't know. And they're kind of annoying. Let me put it to you this way. Would love to play Pitt, but the last time I still think I have PTSD or PTSD or whatever it is that what's his name puts out there.
CTE ESPN.
Yeah, there you go. CTE ESPN. I think I still have that from that game on the Pitt special, because that really should have been a win. And that was I remember where I was in Destin watching that, with
Florida.
With a bunch of UCF fellow fans up there. And that was very, very disappointing. So, so we added Pitt. So we've got a home and home. Huh?
Well, one last thing on Pitt. And so I kind of get the idea, because we are currently playing all these, back 5, 10, 15 years ago, playing Arizona State, Colorado, Oklahoma State, any of these teams was really exciting because we had 1 or 2 on our schedule, and then MAC, right? I get that part of it, where it's not like we're going to get up for this game because we have to play Kent State. Nothing against Kent State, but that's the difference. Then I want to play P5 schools of which we have some type of feeling, right? I don't want to play bland. We have no connection. Like, I'd love to play Purdue. I was really hoping that was the Big Ten school. Nothing against Northwestern, but Purdue and UCF and Space.
Dude, why are you prequeling that? Like, that was the next thing. What are you doing?
Well, the audience probably knows, and it's good segue, but I want to do something with feeling like Purdue, maybe not like the next team we're going to visit. I said it earlier anyway. Come on, catch up.
All right. So anyway, I will say this. We do end up have a home and home series with them. It's not a 2-for-1 or a 1-and-1 with an extra TikTok Terry. I say that in jest because he used to do TikToks, but that's a nickname. But it's a home and home.
Tech think tank, so I'm good.
Yeah, there you go. 2026 away and 2029 at home. Here's the other nice thing about not being G5, right? Is we don't have to worry about them canceling the game, the home game. So that's cool. As you mentioned before, we also added Big Ten team, Northwestern, 2028 away and 2031 at home. So 2028 is interesting because I don't know if that's going to be the first year of their new stadium completion, or I think they have like 3 years or 4 years left to build, or they're doing this huge stadium project. So it's going to be a brand new stadium when we play there. It's a cool location, lots of things to do. There's a lot of UCF alumni in that area, actually, a ton of them. And I'm excited about that because I don't recall did we ever play Northwestern in our history? I don't think we've ever played Northwestern.
So.
And it's going to be a brand new stadium that we get to break in. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the location. It's a new team. And, Josh, for me, it's less about feelings and more about playing and experiencing new campuses and building some history with other, Power 4 teams that I haven't been. So I would love to do that because you experience new traditions, you experience new locations, all of that kind of fun stuff. So for me, I'd rather do that. And I think Northwestern fits the bill well there. So I'm excited about that one.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, their stadium, as I said, I have some friends who are up there. I'm going to see them next month. And we just walked into Northwestern Stadium, like no gates, just drove up, parked, walked in, went to the bleach. It was summer, right? So it's not really like anyone was practicing or anything, but I was a little surprised it was that easy and that easily accessible. So I agree with you. Honestly, I really hope they throw that if we indeed open up that stadium. I hope that's like a UCF Texas thing where we are the first group inside that stadium. That would be kind of cool because, AJ Ramsa will probably be there. We have a lot of alumni in Chicago. We are going to sell out our allotment of tickets there in one way or another, new stadium or not. So, it's going to be good.
All right. So, in addition to that, we're totally going full P5 now. We've got 6 new home games, right? So, that we've added. So we've got Jacksonville State that we've added in 2025, North Carolina A&T in 2026, UMass 2027, UT Martin and Louisiana 2028, Maine 2028, JMU 2029. So UT Martin and Louisiana in 2027. These are body bag games, guys, a lot of them, right? Yeah. And that gets us extra home games. And that's why we do it, because they're more profitable. This is exactly what we complained about when we were trying to come up, right? Is playing these body bag games. And it's funny because, one of the things I was just recently on a college huddle episode talking about the G5 playoff. Go check that out if you haven't. Make sure you that it's on the national channel. We have the Big 12 channel. We have our own channel on there, but on the national channel. And it's so interesting because we talk about us and like it took this full year for us to feel like a P5 program, but the media had kind of accepted us. The G5 program members, when you talk to them, they have accepted us as P5. They look at us that way. They look forward, like we look forward to playing like Texas or Alabama or whatever. They're looking forward to playing us. So they already look at us as a big brand program. And I think that happened before our own fan base even started thinking of ourselves that way. So this is, and that's just because we've had a chip on our shoulder and a complex for so long. But we've made it. And, there's these little sprinkles of things that we've talked about, and that was another sign of it. But these are body bag games. Just like, we saw with the running back room, when we were talking about that earlier, that's what we used to laugh about or complain about UF, is how they would burn, how lucky they were. They'd burn through these 4- and 5-star running backs. And then, we'd look to catch one of them. Well, now we're doing the same thing. You know what I mean? So it's funny because we're turning into a P5 program before anybody, I think, even recognizes it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of these things where fans who've been fighting for this since the late 70s, since St. Leo, they're still around. This isn't decades and decades and decades and generation really after generation of fans finally getting there. This is like a 40 to 40, 50 year glow up. I mean, this.
Okay. Hold on. I just got your ESP reference.
Yeah, whoa, it took so long. It's like I had ESP. So look, I think as fans of most generations, unless you came in like at 2017 and whoa, that's a hard time to be a freshman at UCF and
Like,
see
whoa.
the other side of it, right? But if you've been a longtime fan, or even if you haven't, this is the reality. We've been fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And I do think a lot of people who are currently in the G5 are probably slightly envious and are hoping to get their chance too. Like, listen.
But the thing that gets me about all of that, yes, I agree with that. And listen to that show, watch that YouTube show about that, and you'll get a feeling for what I'm talking about, right? But I think for me, I think reality is hitting that I think everybody else saw us as P5. And I think this was a byproduct of us being good for so long and being dangerous, especially recently, that people don't see, and even leading the group that joined the Big 12 this year, right? The recruiting, everything that's been happening, they look at us as a legit program. And I think the G5 doing that and kind of looking at us that way too, I think that just further solidifies, whether you realize it or not, Night Nation, college football has embraced UCF as a P4 program, right? We are looked at as a P4 program. We are respected like a P4 program. The media, finally after 2017 and into 2018, they finally started changing that narrative after 2018, and the college playoff wasn't a topic anymore. I think that our consistency, and then even though the season could have been a lot better last year football wise, right? That consistency, we still led the pack of the new schools coming in. It didn't have as big of an adjustment as what they did. And they look at us as a legit P4. Media does, the other teams do. The only ones that really give us, I was about to say, a non-family friendly show, like the S on that ESP. The only people that don't, or that still give us a hard time, are Big Two fans. No, Big Two fans, right? And even some of those, they'll put up and they'll say, "Hey, UCF's legit." But
look, Alabama needs to beat us first before they can say anything about us.
Well, Alabama, I think, is in for a rude awakening, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we're going to see. That's going to be interesting. Well,
yeah,
let me see. Storyline. Think about this, right? We're going to have KJ and RJ show in the Big 12 this year. RJ, relatively homegrown, been around for a while, building up and doing amazing things. KJ left Arkansas, insane statistics, and chose to come to UCF, a mix of a bag. He got a pretty nice bag, but it's not like he thought, I'm making enough money to come to UCF. And that's the narrative. And I really, the KRJ show, listen, the reality is, I think a lot of that starts from 2013. So thank you, Blake Bortles and lots of people, not just Blake, but lots of people from there. Right?
Speaking of that, we're going to have a member of that team, a certain MVP, that will be on the show.
That's a good teaser.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot wait for that to happen. I'm thrilled. So I think part of that is, look at this. Like, it's not like every P4 is pulling an SEC very good quarterback.
No, we're recruiting. You're right. We're recruiting at a level of a higher level P4. Yeah. We're punching above our weight when it comes to the recruiting aspect of it.
And I will say this, and I know a lot of people in our fan base have different thoughts about this, but Gus Malzahn is a humongous part of that. And whether or not you have your thoughts on Terry Mahajer, he's the reason he's here. And I'm hoping that this isn't a put up or shut up to get to the next job Gus Malzahn year, but if it is and we do well, it's what it is. But that's a big
I don't think so. What I'm hoping we don't lose, and I don't think we will, because we have is that institutional knowledge, right? Yeah. So the good part about all of this with regard to NIL is the fact that
SJ.
SJ, but even if SJ is a big Gus guy too, right? So he could leave. But my point with that is that style of recruiting, the things that need to be done to recruit, how to recruit, all of that is being ingrained in the program and how we do things as a program. So that should travel. Should Gus Malzahn, and I don't think he will, move on, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for Arkansas, maybe if he has a real good year and he's like, okay, I've accomplished it, maybe he'll go to Arkansas. But that's about the only one.
Okay, so I gotta ask this. I wish we had the whole crew here. Does getting into the playoff and winning a game in the playoff mean more as the coach of UCF or the coach of Arkansas?
At this point, as terrible as Arkansas has been, probably Arkansas.
Yeah. I'm really hoping it isn't like the Scott Frost, Nebraska type of deal where you go back to where you were a high school coach and where you grew up. And I do think Gus Malzahn is going to be successful, almost a guaranteed, forget this year, almost a guaranteed 8, 9, 10 wins, always has, always coaches with faith and heart. He has he puts a lot of great values into those that he coaches. And seems to care a lot about them. So yeah, I hope this isn't unfortunately a 1-year rental. I hope, and Florida is a great place for people to retire.
I don't think it will be. I really don't. It'll be interesting to see what happens at Arkansas. Yeah. What I can say is for 1-year rentals, Harvey for Heisman this year. All right. All right, let's move on. And we need to actually, we've got some exciting news, and I wish that Ben was here this week to talk about UCF basketball and hoops. Recruiting gets a little turnt. So, Josh, I asked you to take a look at that. Can you walk us through the most recent addition to UCF basketball?
So happening the day we are recording, JJ Taylor is now committed to the University of Central Florida. It's a former 4-star small forward. He's 6'7", 185, and we'll see what happens with our weight room. So hopefully maybe getting a little more weight. He was the former teammate of Mikey Williams at Memphis. Let me give you some stats. So you can't go by Memphis. You can't go by last year. He played in 3 games. He averaged 2 minutes. He had a couple of rebounds, like 4. You can't look at that. There might have been some things there with Anthony Hardaway. I don't know exactly. We can only read what we see behind the scenes. Things are going on, but here's the things we do know. There are mixtapes and videos of Mikey and JJ balling out when they were playing together. All right. JJ, his last year when he was a senior, he had about 28 games played and was averaging 25.5 points per game. So he great level of offensive rebounding. He's actually getting some, averaging almost 2 blocks a game too. He's fast. He's athletic. And there's some things that you can't put analytics to when you mesh with someone's playing style and played with them before. So I'm really excited about this. I think most of us thought this was going to happen when Mikey eventually committed to us. I don't think that was a big surprise. But it's going to be kind of fun because we have a very interesting, kind of rest of what the team is right now. So right now we have welcome to NIL, folks. We have 4 returning players from our team with 13 allowed scholarships. This is just welcome to college sports.
To talk about a few things that you mentioned. Okay, so first of all, when we're talking about JJ Taylor, he was a top 3 player in recruiting, right? So he's got raw talent. He's played like all of 5 minutes in college basketball, right?
He doesn't have a point in college basketball. He doesn't have 1 point.
Mikey Williams hasn't played either, right? Yeah. So there's going to be an adjustment there. From what I understand, he's up to 185, but the Big 12 is a very, very physical league. So it'll be an adjustment for him there. Now, as far as pure athletic talent, right, between JJ, Mikey, and possibly Simeon, who's the 3 in the trifecta, and supposedly all 3 of them wanted to play together, right? So this feels like when LeBron decided to go to Miami. The 3 of them wanted to play together. They are phenomenal high school recruits. So from a talent perspective, I think, and pure talent perspective, I think this could be one of the most talented UCF rosters we've ever had, or it has the makings of it. Now, the challenge is going to be, right, we literally stole Penny's, recruits, right? Like Penny Hardaway's recruits, right? So we always talk about how Penny and Memphis are able to recruit. We've got the talent now. The question is can Johnny, and I'm going to pose this question to you, can Johnny control the locker room? Because they both had their own issues. We won't talk about what those issues were. If you want to look those up, you can, right? But they're now Knights. Can he control the locker room? And 2, their personalities are both YouTube stars. They've got a lot of charisma. They've got a lot of confidence. Will Johnny be able to put that together into a team? And again, they'll both have multiple years to play, so he doesn't necessarily have to do it all this year. But between that and the circus that it's going to create in Orlando, I mean, it's already happened, right? Yeah. Mikey Williams phenomena. A lot of people know UCF basketball, didn't know it before. And this last year, we had a lot more celebrities coming to catch a game and all that. And that's going to be boosted if Mikey Williams, to his Instagram followers, and JJ Taylor come to the party. Do you think that Johnny is going to be able to control that and hone them into a team?
So I hope so, but let me qualify that. So let's talk about a couple things. On this podcast, you said it many times that if you wanted someone to coach your kids, Johnny Dawkins would be that type of coach.
Right.
And I think a lot of us agree with that. I've met the man multiple times. Everything I'm hearing and seeing is amazing. Look at that 300 career win video and the people in that video. And they're still kids. These kids can't respect his status, what he's done on the court, who he's been around and coached with, and who is in his inner circle. I don't know who else is going to. Right? So can he? I think so. And I'm interested to see how he's going to mix his coaching style and whether he'll loosen it lightly for the people that are coming in. I don't think these are really, I don't think most 17, 18, 19-year-olds are defensive minded basketball players. It just doesn't seem that way. And
because high school's not. It's all about showing out offensively.
Correct. It's throwing logo threes like Curry. And you know what? There's some people who certainly can do it. We've seen that on the men's and the women's side of basketball in college. But I'm not doing that. I can shoot a 3, but I know what my limits are. So I think the answer is yes, if we're winning reasonably. If we start into a tail slide, I'm worried about how far down the rabbit hole they'll go. And I will say one last thing on the media side, our celebrity side. So I think I was at the first game in my normal seats when Mikey Williams first was announced, and then he came to the game. He had a bodyguard next to him the entire game. He had basically anyone from 21 to 16 coming up asking for photos. He had a couple of the people who are on the team that navigates the new players or the recruits around from UCF around there too. I mean, it was during the middle of the game, people weren't watching the game a lot. Well, so I do think that is we as UCF couldn't pay for the 1 or 2 posts they can do to get to millions of people. And I think if we're doing well, and I think if they listen to Johnny and they get some of the defensive side, that was the thing we were missing a lot this year. Defense was pretty darn solid, but oh my God, could someone just make their own shot? And we only had one or two people who probably could. We have more than two now. And I think that's if we blend the defense that minded Johnny with the just ball out, aggressive offense that some of these kids just have naturally, I think it's going to be great.
Both of them played together and made a lot of noise in the AAU series, right? And that's what you're seeing a lot of. I think for me, is it a situation where they've learned their lesson, right? And if they have, and they take it to heart, I do think it's a situation where where Johnny can make a difference, because they will listen, because they've been burned already, right? So I feel like it's more about that than anything else. I do, we also have a 5-star center that's supposed to be coming in, that's reclassifying from 2025 to 2024. This year, we why don't you, we've got other team members that can also influence them positively, right?
Hope so.
And so when it comes to that, it's going to be the core guys. You saw some of those core guys go to bat for Johnny Dawkins this past year, right?
Oh yeah, Jalen hard, big time.
Yeah, and I want to believe, that this is going to turn into something that's going to be great. But I think what you're going to see is a lot of pieces come together, and it's going to take a minute. We talked about it last year. We talked about it the year before. It's going to take a minute for them to come together as a team, right? And start playing well together. So if we can help them understand that this is not AAU basketball where it's the two of them throwing, trick passes to each other for dunks, because you're not going to be able to do that over a lot of the 7-footers that we have in this league, and kind of get them focused offensively. We've got a lot of firepower that we're bringing in that could make it successful, not just for this year, but also next year. And I think DJ, is he not a junior this year?
I think so. I thought he was a senior, but I got to check that out. I mean, I
can't remember if
he should be a senior, but I think he might be a junior. Yeah.
I can't remember if he's got a year or two left of eligibility, but those core guys, bringing those core guys in, why don't you walk through the roster real quick and just tell us who's now on the roster with JJ Taylor?
Okay, geez. So I was just searching online, and it was the 2024 roster, and I saw Michael Durr. I'm like, no, that's not right. Cached information from the internet. So right now, I was like, that's a little while ago. So right now we have, and it's interesting because it's not like we don't have a brother of an NBA player on the roster too. That's what I'm saying. Like, we have a lot of different interesting connections. It's not like Michael Jordan wasn't in the building multiple times when both of his sons were playing here. So we've been a part of that hype cycle, but not to this level. So right now we have DJ, of course. We have Jalen Sellers, your favorite German Nils, and Tyler Hendricks are returning, right? So we have a couple of recruits that are here reclassifying. Cameron Simpson and Mustafa Tiem. I'm hoping I get that right.
That's right.
I think I got it right. So we have the two Williams, right? We have Mikey. We have Benny. Benny's from Syracuse. We have Rokas. Is it going to be Rokas?
Benny is going to is another player from Hughes. We talked about him. I think it was a couple weeks ago or last week. Yeah. He's another solid, 3 stretch 4 that's going to be playing for us. That is going to help with our shooting. So again, offensively, we needed a lot of help. Defensively, we did really well last year. That plus Mikey plus JJ is a pretty solid group of guys. All right, keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, you got JJ in there. We talk about. It's going to take me a little bit to get some of the names. Arokas Jokius from LaSalle, and we need some bigs. I mean, that defense.
Rokus Jokus. That's how it's pronounced. It's
Thank you.
Rokus
And then following up with Keyshawn Hall from George Mason. It's going to, and we still that's 11. We still have a few more, and I'm interested because there's a lot of fast guards in here, right? And I'm interested if we're going to have more of a Houston feel and or if we're going to do the things that Johnny talked about when he first came in here. When he first came here, he had the meetings with the fans and all that, and he wanted to be really fast, have enough press defense where you're getting over the line at like 8 or 9 seconds in, and then chop your offensive clock to like 20-ish. And we saw a lot of it this year, a lot more of it this year, and it was effective for most teams. Against BYU, it wasn't great, but man, they were probably the best basketball passers. They
just fell apart in the tournament. Like, what the heck?
Oh my God, I was so annoyed with that. But as a lot of the Big 12 did, unfortunately. And honestly, I do think Houston is Final Four material if they were at full strength. And they did pretty darn good for only having like 6 players left or something like that. 3 or 4 of the starters and the people have been in depth in Houston. So we have a very interesting roster, and I'm hoping it's just going to be exciting to be at UCF again. And the Big 12 run, like some of those games were amazing. The atmospheres were amazing. It was like Michael Jordan up in the Loge box and us playing Memphis and playing hard, and AJ and Marcus and those teams just ball, like AJ hitting something and standing on the scores table at the end of the game type of level of atmosphere. And it's almost every week now. So we're doing great as a university by fan base trying to be energized with this basketball team. And I think with all the players we have, if we can get everyone as melded as possible and on the same page, if they buy in, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I think the key with all of this is, we're adding star power, and if these guys play well together, it can have the same effect as what LeBron did, where other guys are going to want to come and play. And the other part about it is they have such a huge social media presence with that younger generation that I think it introduces a lot of folks, a lot of younger kids. They're going to be telling their parents, "Hey, I want to go to a UCF game." So I think that's huge, and I think the key to success is playing together. It can't be 2 guys, and especially we've got a bunch of scorers. You mentioned Hall, as well. He was averaging 17 points a game. So, can Johnny Dawkins offensively put together this group of guys and get them, put together an offense that's mellifluous and, and work together well. And if they can, well, he's already shown that he can coach the defense. So they've got two anchor guys in, DJ and some of the guys that are left over. So can he get that attitude? Can he get them that control? And if they start going off, how will they handle, if they start losing, can they mentally deal with that? Because these guys are used to winning. They're used to winning big. They're going to be playing in the top league and with some very, very experienced players. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing. But altogether, this is a huge win for UCF basketball. Maybe not this year, but definitely for next year. So Johnny, I think Johnny's doing his best to get that extension, and this is a big step towards that.
Yeah, well, this is the make it or break it year for Johnny, regardless of extension or anything like that comes down. And honestly, it should be. Again, I like Johnny Dawkins as a coach. I think he's doing good things. with the team, but we got to see a little bit more as a team. All you have to do is be in probably the top 9 or 8 in this conference to get into the NCAA tournament. That's it.
All right, let's last. You keep hearing this. Last chance, you. Let's last chance, you. This basketball team. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and pivot. Pivot. So we'll talk a little bit of UCF baseball. Interesting this weekend. Last week they beat UNF 6-2. We will play them again tomorrow.
Depending if you tomorrow. You're not gonna edit this by tomorrow. It's either tonight or it was yesterday.
By the time you hear this, they will be playing. Okay, because you're right. It's like 11 o'clock at night. So yes, I will not be editing it until tomorrow. But they will be playing UNF on Tuesday because they actually moved it up a day from Wednesday, which I think was meant to give a little extra rest before they play Texas in that big conference series. And because Houston canceled the third game in our series with them. So we did beat Houston 2-0. One of the aforementioned games was
our text talk.
Was yours, right? Third game was canceled. Basically, I don't know why they didn't do either a doubleheader Saturday or why they didn't play in the morning, because they knew that the weather was coming. But right now, we're right at the 7 seed. And what's interesting is Baylor is one of the teams. So from a conference perspective, we're a 7 seed in the conference. Baylor is nipping at our heels. And so was Kansas State, which we had the tiebreaker over. I believe OSU was the other one that was trying to push for that. Remember, the top 10 teams make the conference tournament. If you're outside of the top 10, you don't make the conference tournament in the Big 12. But we had to get those 2 wins. And now losing that win, we didn't make it to 30 wins. It puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage in conference. But we do have Texas coming up. First game is going to be on Friday at 6 p.m. at the John. Make sure you go out there and, support the guys, but also go watch Texas play in our home stadium. They're moving on to the SEC. This may be the last time you get to see that. They've got a quality baseball team, but they're not the best. So there's opportunities for wins there. And hopefully for us, we really need to go probably 6-2 throughout the season, through the rest of the season to make the regional, unless we really need some help in the conference tournament. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in the next couple series. But regardless of that, I really would like to knock it out of the park, no pun intended, in the conference. I know, but it's true. I'd like to see us get past a few teams in the conference championship. Could we win it? Who knows? Do I want to see us go 0-2? No. Right? So it would be nice to see that.
I just want to make a regional. I don't care how we get there. Look, if we lock in the regional before the conference tournament and we lose the first game, I really don't care. I mean, I don't want to see it, but I really don't care, because all I care about is the regional.
That's fair. And it feels like we were really one bad series of feeling a lot more comfortable about that. And I'm not talking about Oklahoma earlier. That West Virginia away series, just oof.
Cincinnati
kind of oofing at the end. Yeah, we have the maybe if we had Sundin healthy the entire time, that little piece maybe helps a little, but we the pitching is good, but
it took a step back, and that was the big thing, right? Like at the beginning of the season, it wasn't a shutdown, but I think
it's close.
This series, we saw a lot of good things. We saw a lot of good things out of pitching. Our pitching staff, right? Especially our starters on Friday and Saturday. Kramer, I think he needs a little bit more rest. We've also got a couple of guys coming back from injury that should be sliding back into the rotation that we didn't have before. As far as pitching rotation is concerned, Snakowski, I hope I'm saying that right, who had a birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday. He's playing better and has kind of worked his way into both, a prominent relief middle innings kind of guy. And, like you said, Sundin made his presence felt, hit his first home run, and he's definitely an offensive piece that we're missing. One other thing that I wanted to mention about this team, they are the number one best fielding team in the entire conference. So they make the least amount of mistakes, and they made some silly mistakes against Cincinnati and also against West Virginia. But they played really, really clean baseball against Houston. So that's funny because Houston's always got a good program. So, we looked like the better program. We won. We've got Texas coming in. And after that, we've got Baylor and, 29-15 right now, which is crazy. It's not a bad it's not a bad record. But unlikely that we'll hit 40 wins, which is really the magic number for a regional, because we dropped 4 games this season. I don't know if you realize that. CMU, Houston, and then 2 early. But, honestly, the RPI would have only given us another one position, right? Mm-hmm. If we won that game, but if we lost, it would have really hurt us.
Yeah. From the big looking numbers, like UCF women's softball got the 30 wins this weekend. It'd be nice to be at the 30 spot or get near the 40, but it's what it is. We can't deal with the weather. We live in the state, and Houston lives in Houston. I mean, it's just what it is.
All right. So let's go ahead and pivot to a little bit of a listener love. I want to give a quick shout out to some folks this week. First of all, our international listeners. Now, one of the things that we don't talk about a lot. We have 5% of our listeners are in Australia. We've got people in Europe. We've got people in Russia, believe it or not, that are actually watching some of our stuff. Nice. Germany, Brazil. We've got a significant amount of Brazilians that are watching our stuff. So shout out to all the international listeners if you got it on there. Again, we mentioned the Cuddle. I did Huddle. That's twice. Huddle content. Make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, commenting, all of those things. Help us out. All those folks that are commenting, even the Miami fan who was upset that we said that they're now our feeder school last week, Ben. Keep that coming and keep submitting those words. We talked about the word game that we're playing, and you're seeing those sprinkled in. So if you're looking on Twitter, don't be afraid to tag one of us and say, hey, here's a name for the word game. We'll try to get them in. But most importantly, thank you everyone for continuing to support us. We see those numbers rising. We see more people following, and we appreciate the support. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. You got to understand what all the hullabaloo is about, man. It's really great to play these games and have some fun with all the fans.
All right. That was a little forced, but we'll take it. So
listen, I do what I can.
So Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week is non-existent because not only do we not have a stat of the week this week, we don't have an Alan of the week this week. So
nor sport he watches of the week. So that
yeah. So next week I promised last week we'd be looking at some things regarding wide receivers versus DBs in the NFL. So we'll pick that up next week. All right.
Great.
That being said, what we do have this week is we have Josh and his sometimes funny fact of the week. So Josh, take it away.
I had some really whack thing from a women's softball, not ours.
Did you just say whack?
It was
Bro,
whack.
I haven't heard that for like 8 years.
I'm all I'm listening to is the hip hop's going and the 90s are coming back.
Wiggity.
Wiggy. So this is actually something that I bet you and or the listeners were yelling at your stereo, iPhone, Google Pixel, whatever, or screen if you're on YouTube when I was talking about it earlier. So I got a twofer for you.
Okay.
We talked about Latavius Murray. He was mentioned earlier. He was part of our 2010 Conference USA championship team and the UCF Liberty Bowl championship team. Sorry, Aaron Murray. And scored the only touchdown in that game. Yet he did not have the most yards of a UCF running back in 2010. So I have two questions for you. One, who had more yards than him in 2010, and who from that team made the NFL?
Like from the team, meaning
From the 2010 overall roster.
Well, I know Bruce Miller made it. He played on that team, if I remember correctly.
He did. You want to get the running back first? You got a lot. There's at least.
Was it Bryn Harvey? It was either Bryn Harvey or Ronnie Weaver. I can't remember. It's one of those two.
It is one of those two. I'll give you one chance of getting it right.
I want to say it was Ronnie Weaver.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Ronnie Weaver had 186 attempts with 890 yards, 4.8 average. Latavius had 111 at 637 yards with a 5.7 average, and of course, was in the NFL. What other? Oh my God!
Was Josh sitting on that team? Was Josh sitting on that team?
I was looking at offense, so no. What other 10 players was in one way or?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what other 10 players had some sniff or deeper than a sniff at the NFL from that team? You already got one, Bruce Miller.
Did Darius Null, I think, was one?
He was on the team. He was not enough to get a badge on sportsreference.com.
Okay.
Was on the team.
Hold on. I'm trying to think. I don't think was Blake was on the I think Blake was on that team, was he not?
2010? No, your QBs for 2010 were Jeff Godfrey and
I didn't say he was the QB. I think he got
he's not listed. I should say, how about that? I'm using sports reference. Very good.
Kamar Aiken, maybe?
Yep. Kamar Aiken was in there. Give me one more person from the offense who's still playing in the NFL.
Offense. Wasn't AJ Bouye on that team too?
AJ Guyton was on the team, and AJ Bouye was on the team as a sophomore. He, of course, made it to the NFL.
Clayton Gathers was on that team.
Was on that team as a freshman, correct. You're doing good.
Well, I remember the 2010 team. I just don't remember offense. Who else would be on there? Okay,
big one in.
Wasn't Toogs, was it?
No.
Oh, Chris Martin. Wasn't Chris Martin on that team?
Chris Martin wasn't. If he was, no. Not.
Are you sure?
I'm looking at what I can find here on sportsreference.com.
I'm pretty sure he was a freshman on that team.
It could have been. Maybe it was a red shirt. So let me tell you who I do have.
Quincy McDuffie.
I think he was on the team. Yes, as a sophomore.
Okay, go ahead. What's the last one? Since I don't think I'm going to get it.
The one you really should have gotten was Charlie Hewitt.
Oh, yeah. The snapper.
Yeah, correct. I mean, how many people are still on a team, right? So we have people had either in or a sniff. Jamar Newsom. That's a throwback. And Nisley, also a throwback. Bruce Miller, you got Troy Davis was in the NFL for a hot minute.
Was Kamal Ishmael on that team? Kamal Ishmael was on that team too, wasn't he?
It should have been.
I think he was like a sophomore or something.
Yeah, I don't have it here, but it feels like it should be. But there are other DBs on here. So Clayton Gathers, you got AJ Bouye, you got Kamal Ishmael. No, he's on it. He was a sophomore with AJ. Another sophomore. That's a killer sophomore class. Josh Robinson was on there too. And behind him, Jordan Ozerites to me is an underrated DB from our UCF teams back in the day. Really, he did some major work.
He got the pick against the Cows.
Yeah,
in that Pyramid game.
Yeah, he did some major work, and I don't think he gets all the he's not like top of mind when you come with DBs from UCF, but while he was here, he did some major work. So we had a lot of nights on the 2010 team.
Well, and I do talk to him. I do talk to him quite a bit still. He does some modeling, and he for Orlando City actually. If you look at the Orlando City stuff, yeah, nice. He does. He also does personal training and stuff like that. We still talk on Instagram. So that may be an opportunity for Jordan to come in and kind of talk to us as well. But okay, well, thank you for the update and this week's fun fact of the week. Since Alan doesn't care, he clearly did not watch. Do you want to give us your quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch?
Listen, Alan doesn't watch a lot of sports, but that's okay. We watch some of them. So UCF softball beat Iowa State in Series 2-1, and that was a comeback because that one was the first game, and I think it was 12-3. It was not a good-looking first game, and they got 2 in a row to take the series. That same pitcher from the first game pitched the third game as well. Oh, I that part I didn't know. You could definitely.
Because I actually watch it. See that's what happens when you watch it.
I watch. Listen, I watch.
I didn't mean that towards you. I meant that towards Alan. Like
I know.
If you watch it, you can see that.
Well, it's interesting because of the way the mechanics work in softball. The women can pitch way tighter than the men can between starts, and that's intriguing.
Pause.
Come on, I knew it as I said it, and I just went right past it. You can just put a B in the chat. Come on, but you can go within the series and pitch 2 times, and I'm glad that we won the third one then because the first one didn't look that hot. We got 30 wins on the season. We are locked into the bye in the Big 12 championship, and we get to play Baylor in the first round, who is also doing pretty good and pretty much.
I'm just glad
badly last week. So
yeah, I'm just glad we get to avoid OSU because they are originally the bracket was looking like we might play them, and it looks like we will get to avoid them. So
that would be nice. Again, we'd love to see how far we go. Would like to see us to get to a regional, but I think we need to have some major wins to do that this year. It wasn't like last year. I think we need to either win it or
actually, they are looking
to projected in.
Yeah, at this time, from what I remember, I remember reading an article I think this past week where they are looking as a regional. I think to the UF regional this year.
Okay, I know Eric Lopez, but that's great to hear. We also have women's golf who are playing in the regional as a 5 seed, and the top 5 go to the finals. So we're doing a lot of doing some good work on the sports that Alan doesn't watch, and I'm sure there's some track and field stuff coming up. I've seen some stuff on UCF stuff. Actually, it was on their LinkedIn account, I think, with all the graduations and stuff too. So. Alan doesn't watch a lot of these sports, and we're doing pretty darn good in many of them.
And unfortunately, tennis did bow out after
beating UF.
Beating the Gators. They beat the Gators last, which I think they were ranked 25.
I think it was 23. Yeah,
23. And then we played FSU, and unfortunately, they beat us 4-1. So so that didn't work, but. That will put a bow on this on this episode. You only got the two of us, either the terrible two or the dynamic duo, whichever you think. Leave it in the comments and let us know. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and grind. Maybe.
Grind?
Just kidding.
I mean, it's just me here. I don't know if we're going to.
I know. But like, subscribe, go Knights, and
charge on. It's just me. It doesn't work as it's just me. I don't know. Listen, wait until you hear the KDOT thing I'm going to drop right after.